2 days a week you can find Jorge de Guzman here, in the gym of a very busy YMCA in Sarnia, Ontario. Today he's teaching an intermediate Kung Fu class for 8 to 12-year-olds.
Look straight forward, heads up, body upright.
He's been teaching martial arts in Sarnia since 1976. That's when Jorge and his family moved here from the Philippines. Jorge teaches 5 classes a week. He founded the Sarnia School of Self-Defense, a group of trained martial artists whose mandate it is to stop the sexual abuse of women and children here in Sarnia and overseas. His school was inspired by a very emotional trip he took to Thailand with his own martial arts mentor.
On the first day that we were there, he told me, let's go to the hospital. There's somebody I need to visit. We were taking to this girl. She's basically dying because a couple of foreigners had rented this 9-year-old girl. She's a child prostitute for the week. And on the second day, they inserted a vibrator in her vagina that it exploded. I was so disturbed. I was so moved because I smelled her, I saw her, I watched her die. And I could not do anything about it. I think anyone who was given the chance to see things happen that way won't stand by and be silent.
So Jorge spoke up. He and 8 of his adult students set out that same year to his hometown in the Philippines. They traveled to schools and community centers teaching girls 12 to 17 about abuse, prevention, and self-defense. Jorge explains that in Southeast Asia, in places like Thailand and the Philippines, every year thousands of women and girls are at risk of being sexually abused or being sold or kidnapped into prostitution. Jorge says there are many reasons why girls in the Philippines end up in these situations.
First is poverty. Second is knowledge, awareness. And this generation tend to look the other way when it comes to child prostitution. In school, we don't have sex education. So these girls are left, helpless because of ignorance. And once these girls, like 9, 8, 10-year-old girls are recruited into it, there's no turning back. You know, as much as I do, there's no turning back there.
So Jorge and his team focus on equipping young women with the skills and awareness they need to protect themselves.
I tell them things that against the norm of society. Like I said, if you know that you're being abused, fight, run away, do something about it. Don't sit down there and take that abuse.
Jorge has taught his seminar to tens of thousands of women in Southeast Asia. He really wants to change things, but he says his version of success is helping just one child.
I mean, out of 80,000, maybe 2 or 3 would be able to use them. And that's a motivation for me to continue on. I know you could not learn martial arts in one day. And I'm doing this for 2, 3, 4 hours. I hope that there's an awareness part of it, that they be able to react or do something when this stress situation comes into their life.
It's those few who keep him going, those few who will actually use the lessons he teaches. But he also does it for the girls who have already been abused, the abuse he could not prevent.
I was in one of the rehabilitation center, and I was talking to this girl, a girl 12 years old. And I was mentioning about faith, religion, belief in the divine providence, and the belief that you could be helped. This girl asked me, where was your God when I was raped by my father and 6 of her friends and left me for dead in the side of the road? Where was your God? I could not answer that question. Everyone say, well, have faith. But this person probably had faith until something happened to her drastically that had changed her life forever. I'm not a moralist nor a psychologist, but there's something wrong with engaging children when it comes to sex. If society had allowed it to let go for all these years, I don't really want to be a part of that society that's quiet and not do anything about it. I want to be a part of that society who choose to do something about it. And I'm glad that I have the capacity to do it. I'm glad that I have a blessing from my family to do it. I'm glad I have a blessing from the community to do it.
In November, Jorge turned 61. But he says he doesn't know when he will stop going to Southeast Asia to teach. What he does know is that change doesn't happen overnight. All George is concerned with is saving as many children as he can.
I think I'm going to change one child at a time, one group at a time, one at a time, one day at a time.
For CBC Radio, I'm Avery Moore.